Hello, folks. Welcome back. I am so glad that you guys have made it this far into the challenge. If you haven't read my intro before, listen to my intro. My name is Coach Shanelle. I am a women advocate for over 10 years. I started with a workshop series back in 2008, which helped women to build business in a down economy. It's called Building Your Business. And since then, I leveraged that opportunity to be able to go on radio, to get on live television, and to go on video. It ended up leading to a development of this coaching practice. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I don't want to spend too much time on the intro. I want you guys to really get the things that you came here for, which was some tools and strategies to help you to beat procrastination. Now, we are very far into the challenge, and I'm very excited about your progress. If you're still here, I know that you're still committed to yourself and to your goals. Today, we're going to be talking about distractions, right? One of the things I will never do in my coaching practice or with any material that you give you is to set you up for an idealized view of life. What do I mean by that? I am not going to tell you that things are going to be perfect. In fact, I'm going to actually have you plan for if things go askew. Okay, what do I mean by that? Things are going to go wrong. Let's be real, right? And so I think sometimes coaches can do people a disservice to say that if you have this particular tool that you'll never run across any issues, or if you do this mindset work, then you'll never have to worry about this thing again. Well, the truth is we're going to face problems. We're going to face setbacks. We're going to have some things that come up and arise, and that we're going to constantly be working towards making sure that those things that we are newly bringing into our lives are established as habits, right? And so one of the things that I usually do with my coaching clients is I have a do what you can plan, right? So we have a strategy, we have a do what you can plan. And the do what you can plan actually has you plan for some things that might arise that may come up as obstacles, and to really think through that process of some tools that you can use when you get into a rough patch, right? And so with the strategies that we're learning, we're going to also have a time to discuss distractions, right? Because when you get focused, when you get in alignment, when you're getting up and ready to go, you're going to realize that those are the times that you tend to be most distracted, right? Because it's that resistance that comes up that allows you to know that you're moving into new territory, right? So change is all about stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? And success may not be within your comfort zone, but it's still within your reach, right? And so sometimes we have to kind of move towards those things that we want in order to give our mind and our body and our soul and spirit the information that it needs to let us know that we are really committed to those things that we say that we want, right? And so what are we talking about today? We are talking about, because I went down the rabbit hole, we're talking about distractions, right? And so we're going to talk about some ways in which you can get distracted both by people and by things, right? And so the first of which is technology, right? I love technology. When I first started to help and coaching people and to working with clients, I actually started with doing social media strategies. That was way back in 2008. So remember, social media was not anything like it is now, right? I had a starter package to set up people's social media accounts. If you can really realize that was actually like a big thing, right? So being able to set up a Facebook page to get them going, and I would monitor their accounts for a certain amount of weeks, and I would put up their headers and help them to understand that they had to make sure that they understood what their brand colors were and those sorts of things. And that was a huge thing. And I got so many radio interviews because that was like not a thing back then. And the whole idea of actually putting a lot of visuals, like pictures and things for social media, was actually not a big thing. Now we have like Instagram, and video is huge, and all these different things, especially like TikTok with the music videos and things like that. But back then, when people really new to social media, a lot of people, they were scared of those things, right? And it was like, I want to give my account to a millennial, and I'm going to have them manage that thing, and I'm going to put information out about myself on social media to strangers. All that stuff was not the norm back then, if you guys can remember. And so now technology is a daily part of our lives. It comes into our lives in so many different ways, and it can be a very helpful tool, right? But it can also be a huge distraction. What do I mean? I mean that you have your email set up with a notification that every time an email hits that you have a ding on your phone, right? So you can be in the middle of a great conversation and then you hear a ding on your phone. You stop what you're doing in the conversation, talking to that person that you value that's important to you, and you look into your phone to see who sent you an email, right? Oftentimes, now don't get me wrong, I love reading emails, and I think that if you are a business owner, if you have some leadership capacity, that you do need to check emails, right? But I have often found that the people who stop conversation or stop activities with their families or stop when they're out in a setting with their friends, if they stop to look at an email, oftentimes the email is less of a priority than they're making it to be, right? We oftentimes feel a struggle to constantly be on the know and understanding what's going on at every moment. And I found that if you actually take a minute and you to respond, or you wait until you get to a time where you have the capacity, both mental capacity, right, because you're not divided in attention, and you have some time to really sort through what you want to send as a response, you oftentimes make a better decision than if you're being torn for time or for energy or for mental capacity, right? And people in business can get used to what you set as the intention, right? So you have to set your boundaries early on. And I found that we really don't need to constantly be on our emails, right? And so people who are tied to that can oftentimes have some other issues going on beneath the surface. But email is not something that you need to constantly be looking at multiple times a day, unless you have a different sort of career. But most people, they don't need to check email that often. The second is social media, right? Love social media, big Facebook fan, love Instagram. I'm a huge advocate for YouTube. I think YouTube is one of the best resources, especially for people who are trying to start businesses. YouTube, you can learn so many things from YouTube that you don't have to take a business course, that you can get through with the first 6 months or so for your business, even up to a year if you're really working at it. You can get some tips and tools, resources, and information that you need to get yourself in a launch mode, to get yourself to making some regular steady income. But you're going to need something to help scale your business down the line. But it can definitely give you the steps to get started, right? And it also can break down things that you thought were really far away that you couldn't get access to anymore. I've found if I get into a spot and I don't know something, I look on YouTube and I usually can find the steps to do pretty much anything. Steps to put together furniture, steps to find out how to work this remote without the batteries, and it just whatever it is. YouTube usually has a video on it, and so it can allow you to feel like you have a little bit more control over things. So social media can be great, can be helpful. It can allow us to have connection with our family and friends who might be in other areas. It can allow us to have to send quick updates, so that we're not on the phone for hours at a time. It can do some real good, but it can also be something that really sucks your time, right? And what do I mean? I mean, when you know that you have to do something for yourself and for your goals, and you get on Facebook, and before you know it, you're following some long trail of information, or you really got caught up in the feed and you realize that an hour went by or 2 hours went by. You were sitting there and you're supposed to be doing something for your goals, and you sat down to do it, and then you got sucked on watching a YouTube video, and before you knew it, you were binge watching the whole series, right? And so those things can definitely tie up your time, right? And what's another one? Netflix, right? I love Netflix. Absolutely love Netflix. Love the different series. Love being able to have access to things I wouldn't normally see on TV, but Netflix can definitely be something that sucks your time. If you have ever binge watched a series, guilty, right? Anybody else? Guilty. If you've ever watched a Netflix series and binge watched it, and you know how much time that you can allot to Netflix before you even realize it. Sometimes it's intentional and it's like a rainy day, and sometimes it can be that you need to get stuff done, and then you kind of get sucked into a series, and it's so good, and you just want to see the end of it, and before you realize it, it has really distracted you from what you needed to do, right? And so, technology can definitely be one of the number one distractions from your goals, right, and causing you to procrastinate. Number two, I was going to say, is actually noise, right? So having background noise, maybe it might be that the place that you're trying to do the work in may be a place that's just really noisy. You got a lot of stuff going on in the background. and I hate to say this one, but sometimes it could be like music, right? So I love music. Music just really resonates with me. I like live concerts. I like live bands. I like being able to listen to certain sounds when I'm going to sleep. I like being able to change my mood and my mindset with music, right? But if you're that person who when you start to play the music that's supposed to motivate you, you start cheer dancing, and before you know it, you're up and twerking and doing all kinds of stuff, and you haven't gotten anything done, then maybe music might be a distraction for you, right? So it could be that you may be able to still do music, but maybe you have to do it in small doses. So you play a little bit to get you revved up, and then you have to turn it off. Or maybe it might be the kind of music, right? You know that one gets you moving a little bit too much, and you spend more time, popping it than you do doing work. The music might not be for you, right? And sometimes we just really need to tune out the noise and any kind of distraction, and that could include music in order for us to really focus on things. So maybe music for that particular thing that you're focusing on that day, music might not be good for you. It might be a distraction, right? And so sometimes noise can definitely be it. Noise could also be like mental noise, right? You might be really overwhelmed, too much stuff going on. And sometimes it takes that time to just sit there and ground yourself, right? And so sometimes you can come in from work or come in from a business meeting or come in from whatever your daily activity is, and it might be overwhelmed and there's a lot of mental noise and confusion going on. And so that could mean that you need a moment of meditation, that you need a moment of prayer, that you need a moment of silence just to get yourself grounded before you start the next task, right? And sometimes we are constantly trying to move ourselves forward when it might mean that we actually need to care for ourselves, to provide some healing that we need, and to actually to process the things that have happened to us. And sometimes it could be that might be the noise, that might be distracting you, right? And so sometimes we need to cut out some other noise, which could mean, some things that are going on in our head as well, right? So that's number two. The third, I would say, is it might be new ideas, right? And so oftentimes, if you are an idea person, you're constantly being inspired. You're constantly getting, different cues. You go out and you have ideas that come into your head, and sometimes you could get into a mode or a pattern where you are constantly coming up with ideas, and then you have so many ideas that you don't know which one to launch, right? And then sometimes you feel like you can constantly just be getting it better, right? What if this isn't the best idea? What if I find something else better? Or what if I constantly am not sure what's going to be next, right? And it's that fear of the unknown, right? I don't know what I don't know, right? And I don't know if this is the best thing, and I don't know if this is perfected enough, right? And it ties into that perfectionism that we were talking about before, right? And so sometimes it could be that we have so many new ideas that we get distracted and we don't actually launch anything, right? And ideas are great, right? But profitable ideas are even better, right? And it's hard for something to be profitable if it never actually gets to take legs. It never actually is on go. You don't launch, right? And so the best ideas actually never go anywhere because people don't actually do anything with them, right? And so there's a lot of people who are ideal people that never make any money, and there's some people who don't really have that many ideas, but they work very hard at launching things and they perfect along the way, and those people oftentimes tend to be quite successful. So don't get caught up in idea generation that you never actually launch, right? And so new ideas can definitely be a distraction. So that's number three. I would say the next is that you are overcommitted, right? So you're the person who is constantly trying to help people. You're constantly trying to give advice. You're constantly trying to show up and be loyal to your friends. You're constantly trying to say the right things and to help people as much as you can. And sometimes you can overcommit yourself. Sometimes that can tie into a fear of being rejected if you say no. Sometimes it can mean that you derive your worth from the support that you provide to other people, right? And so maybe you were always in that role where you were the supportive one, the backbone, the person that was holding people accountable, the person that was uplifting, the person that was constantly on the workplace. And so sometimes we can have those things as a part of our core identity and not know how to step away from those things. And so overcommitment oftentimes has to do with saying too many yeses and not having enough boundaries. It's not about time, it's about boundaries, right? And so you can be really focused on doing well, but it can be the wrong timing, right? And so There's a lot of good things that compete for our time. And if you don't actually put yourself as a priority and schedule that time and allot that time for yourself, then trust me, there is more than enough people who will try to spend that time for you, right? And so make sure that you put yourself on your to-do list, that you put yourself on your time system, and that you make yourself a priority before anybody else, right? So it's very important to do that. All right, and so that would be number 4, as you're overcommitted. And our last one is, I also feel like another way that you might be procrastinating is that you're playing the comparison game, right? And so sometimes we can get into a spot where we're really like, because we don't feel like we're supposed to be, we start to compare ourselves to other people. And we'll start to say, they're already, doing this niche. They're already working on a coaching practice. Why should I do a coaching practice? They're already booking 12 gigs a year, and they're booking them at 6 figures. Why should I get started on speaking? I'm still trying to speak at my local church, and they won't even pay me $200. No, but seriously, y'all know churches sometimes don't be willing to pay for speaking gigs, which is so funny to me. But because they usually have so many speakers coming, but sometimes they don't want to pay speakers. So that's always a joke I like to make. But sometimes you can start to see somebody else that say they have it all. They're already doing these things. They're already profitable. They're already working with the kind of clients I want to work with. They already have the look that I want to have. They already lost the weight. They already had the man. Whatever your goal might be, because we have goals that come from different areas of life. It could be a health goal. It could be a wealth goal. It could be a relationship goal, right? It could be a professional goal. And there's different pockets that we have goals in. And sometimes when we're feeling less than or not where we're supposed to be, it can be very easy to compare ourselves to other people. And sometimes you may not get started because you feel like they're so far ahead of you that it doesn't even make sense, that you'll never catch up, right? And here's the thing, who told you that you need to catch up, right? One of the practices that I use to motivate my clients is to use the analogy of a horse race, right? I know, sounds crazy. Stick with me. It's going to make sense. Promise. I promise. Yeah, just listen. Hear me out. Okay. So when you go to the horse races, you will notice that one of the things that they put on the horses is the little mask, and it's a little guard that covers up, their eyes and along the sides of it. And when it's time for the horses to get ready, when they pull the trigger and it starts the horses going, they have that little guard on the side. And allows the horse to not be able to see what's coming up on either side of them, but to focus on their own race. They are in their own lane, and they are focused in seeing the finish line, right? And sometimes you need to have that laser focus where you have your guardrails up, and you're able to focus on your goal, which is the finish line, and you're able to stay in your own lane. And you know what ends up happening if a horse is not focused on going forward and staying in their lane? When they start to look this way or this way, that is often the horse that ends up losing the race, right? And so why do I say that? I say that because sometimes you're not going to get where you need to be because you're too busy focusing on to the left or to the right and say, this person already has this man. This person already has this money. This person already has this business. This person already is with that crowd that I want to hang out with. This person is doing that. And so you're spending so much time comparing yourself and seeing where your position is and looking at it from a state of lack, that you're not able to focus on the things that you have within you, the greatness that you have, and the abundance that you have. You're not able to focus on your lane and the things that you do well and that you bring to the situation, that you spend so much time comparing yourself that you don't end up winning your own race, right? Because you're focused on everybody but your finish line, right? So sometimes we need to stay in our own lane and stop watching what this person and that person is doing so that we can stay focused on our own race, right? And it's easier for you to get to the finish line if you are constantly making steps to go towards that way rather than to look to the right or to look to the left. Because oftentimes what we see is we start to see the progress that people are making, but we don't see anything that is behind the scenes. Everybody shows the highlight reel, but nobody shows the behind the scenes. So they might have that man, but that man might be cheating, right? They might have that friendship circle that you have, but maybe those people aren't as loyal. Maybe they just pose for pictures, right? They might have that figure, but maybe they spend 3 hours in the gym, right? And you haven't even gotten on the treadmill. No, but seriously, Sometimes we don't see the work that goes into when people become successful. And sometimes it took a lot of work for them to get to that level, right? And so we're comparing where we are right now to where they are at the finish line. We didn't get to see where they started. We didn't get to see their process. All of us have a process, right? And so sometimes you cannot get to your level and to your finish line and be in alignment with your goals because you're too busy worrying about the other people, right? And it sets us up, and it's a really dirty game that you end up playing because you can constantly start to do. And I think social media in some ways really plays into it because, again, people like to show you the highlight reel, but they don't show you the behind the scenes, right? And so you don't see all the bloopers. You don't see all the things that didn't go well. You don't see all the failures. You don't see all the times they might have ran out of money, the times they felt broken in spirit, the times where they might have lost friends or might have been in a rough spot. You don't even see like all the work necessarily that went into that thing, right? You might just see that they got that event off, and you don't know that they might have been working on that event for 6 months, right? And so sometimes we don't really realize what happens before somebody gets to a level. And we're just looking at that we're not at that level, but we don't know what it takes to get there, right? And sometimes we need the strategies, right? Sometimes there is nothing stopping you from doing something that somebody else did but the strategy, right? Sometimes it could be the strategy and the connection. Sometimes it could literally just be that you're not in that same space. Sometimes people are provided opportunity because they're just in the right room, right? And so maybe they have, just as much speaking ability as you do. Maybe they have just as much knowledge as you do. Maybe they have just as much value to bring as you do. Maybe they just were in a room where somebody was giving out that access to that opportunity. You just weren't in that room, right? And so, as you start to learn and grow, you just, instead of looking at it and saying what you lack, you can look at it and say, this is an opportunity for me to get there. What is something that I need to get access to in order for me to put myself in position to be able to bring about that goal, right? And it's all about strategy and being able to look at things from an abundance perspective and say, I have all these things to give. I just need this particular strategy in order for me to get to where I need to be, right? And so to recap, some of the things that we talked about that cause distraction is 1, technology, 2, noise, 3, it was too many ideas, 4 was overcommitment, too many yeses and not enough boundaries. And our last one is comparisons, right? Comparing ourselves to other people. I hope this was very helpful. Please go ahead and look at the material for today. Make sure that you complete your action steps. If you have questions, please reach out to me in the support email, or please let us know with all the tools that we have available to you. Make sure that you do the steps. It's going to definitely help you. Congratulations on how far you got in the challenge. Look forward to speaking to you folks tomorrow. Take care. Bye.